The city of New York was alive with its usual buzz: yellow taxis rushing past, tall buildings casting long shadows, and people walking quickly to their destinations. Among the glittering skyscrapers stood the tallest one, the Carrington Tower, named after the richest family in the city, the Carringtons. They owned a huge real estate empire worth nearly $900 million. Their name was known everywhere. Thomas Carrington was the head of the family and the business. He was a tall man with sharp eyes and a serious face. He had worked hard all his life to build the family fortune. His 3 children, William, Helen, and Grace, were brought up to be proud and confident, but sometimes, they seemed too proud. They believed their money and power made them better than others. Every Friday night, the Carrington family held parties in their large penthouse on the top floor of the tower. These parties were for important people: business leaders, politicians, and celebrities. Everyone wanted to be there. But one person was often ignored and mocked at these events: Alex Ford. Alex was the son of Mark Ford, a small tech CEO who worked hard to build his business. Mark's company created new software, but it was still small compared to the Carrington empire. Alex was different from the rich kids at the parties. He did not have expensive clothes or fancy cars. He was quiet and polite, but also very smart and hard-working. William Carrington, the oldest son, noticed Alex the moment he stepped into the penthouse one evening. Alex had come alone, wearing a simple black suit. William's eyes narrowed with dislike. "Look who's here," William said loudly, so everyone could hear. "The CEO's little boy." "What are you doing in our world, Alex?" Helen laughed loudly. "Yeah, Alex, this is not a place for boys like you. You should go back to your daddy's office." Grace smiled but didn't say anything. She just looked at Alex as if he were invisible. Alex felt his cheeks burn. He wanted to say something, but he stayed quiet. He knew the Carringtons didn't respect people like him. Instead, he walked slowly to a corner and watched the party quietly. Mark Ford, Alex's father, was a man with simple clothes but kind eyes. He had started his company with little money but big dreams. Mark had always told Alex, "Never forget where you come from. Work hard, be kind, and the world will notice." Alex believed these words. He knew that the Carringtons were powerful, but he also knew that kindness and intelligence mattered more. At the party, the Carrington children continued to mock Alex. William told a joke about how Alex would never be able to buy a building like their families. Helen whispered mean comments about his simple suit. Even some of the other guests laughed, not because they wanted to, but because they wanted to fit in with the Carrington family. Alex's heart felt heavy. He wanted to leave, but he stayed. He wanted to show them that he was not just a CEO's son. He wanted to show them that he had his own dreams. After the party, William and his siblings talked about Alex. "He's nothing," William said. "Just a small boy playing in a big world." Helen nodded. "Let's keep watching him. It will be fun to see if he can ever succeed." But Alex was not giving up. He went home that night and sat in his father's small office. The walls were lined with books and computers. Mark was working late, just like always. "Dad," Alex said quietly, "why do they hate me so much?" Mark smiled gently. "It's not hate, son. It's fear. They fear that you might change things. They fear that someone without their money can succeed." Alex nodded slowly. "I want to prove them wrong. I want to make a difference." Mark put his hand on Alex's shoulder. "Then work hard. Be patient. Success will come." The next few days were not easy. At school and in the city, Alex faced whispers and jokes. But he never lost hope. He spent hours learning about technology and business. He helped his father in the office, working on new ideas for their software. One day, Alex had an idea. He wanted to create a new program that could help people manage their homes better, a smart system to save energy and money. He worked day and night, writing code, testing, and fixing problems. Meanwhile, the Carrington family continued their life of luxury. At their company, they planned new buildings and expansions. But William, Helen, and Grace never forgot Alex. They watched his small company with curiosity and sometimes with fear. At another event, the Carringtons invited Alex again. This time, Alex was not nervous. He was calm and confident. He wore a neat suit and walked with his head held high. William saw him and sneered. "Back again, Alex? Still dreaming?" Alex smiled politely. "Dreams are what keep us moving forward." Helen rolled her eyes. "Dreams don't build empires, Alex. Money does." Alex looked at her kindly. "Maybe. But kindness and ideas build the future." Some guests whispered and looked at Alex with surprise. He was different from the usual crowd. He was not loud or arrogant. He was respectful but strong in his own way. The night ended, and Alex left quietly. But this time, the Carrington children felt something they didn't expect: a little respect. Back in his room, Alex wrote in his journal, "I am not just the CEO's son. I am Alex Ford. I will prove that kindness, hard work, and smart ideas matter. I will show them all that true success is more than just money." After the night of the grand party where Alex Ford had quietly stood his ground despite the harsh words of the Carrington children, the world around him began to shift in ways no one could predict. Though the Carringtons had mocked him openly, something deep inside Alex stirred a quiet fire of determination. Back at home, Mark Ford, Alex's father, received unexpected news that would change their lives forever. A large, well-known technology company had shown great interest in buying their software product, the one Alex had been helping to develop, the software designed to help people manage their homes better and save energy. The offer was far beyond what Mark and Alex had hoped for, promising billions in value, and suddenly their small, struggling tech company was on the path to becoming a giant. While the news brought excitement to the Ford family, it sent shockwaves through the world of the Carringtons. The billion-dollar empire they had built on real estate was beginning to feel vulnerable, and the arrogant confidence William, Helen, and Grace carried started to crack, though they refused to show it in public. The business rivalries in New York were ruthless, and once word spread that the Ford company might become a powerful player, several competitors began to plot how to keep their position safe, especially against this rising new threat. Meanwhile, Alex continued his work with a quiet focus, ignoring the sneers and jokes of the Carrington children. He knew the road ahead would not be easy, but he also believed that hard work and kindness would win in the end. His father had always told him, "Son, when others laugh at you, it only means you're about to do something great." That advice gave Alex strength. As the Ford company's value grew, so did the respect for Alex's vision in the tech world. Many people started to see him as more than just the CEO's son. Invitations to important meetings, conferences, and discussions came in, and Alex spoke with calm confidence about how technology could help people live better lives. Yet, despite his rising success, he never forgot the lessons of humility and kindness his father taught him. In contrast, the Carrington family's life began to feel shaky. Their once powerful empire faced challenges they had not expected. A rival real estate company launched aggressive bids to take over some of their properties. Investors who once trusted the Carrington name grew uncertain as rumors of financial troubles began to spread quietly through the city. William insisted they fight back with everything they had, but Helen, more cautious, wondered if they had grown too proud and careless over the years. Grace, the youngest, tried to keep the family together, but the stress showed in her eyes. Despite all this, they continued to mock Alex whenever they could. At an exclusive business dinner, William raised his glass and said loudly, "Let's not forget who we are dealing with, the CEO's little boy, still dreaming of playing with the big kids." Helen laughed and added, "Maybe he should stick to his software games and leave real business to us." Their words were cruel, but they hid a deep fear. They knew Alex's success could change everything. To their surprise, Alex did not respond with anger or insults. Instead, he smiled and said, "I hope one day we can work together and build something great, not just for us but for everyone." This calm and hopeful answer left many guests quiet, some even thoughtful. The world was beginning to see a new kind of leader emerging from the young man they once ignored. Behind the scenes, Alex's relationship with his father grew stronger. Mark continued to guide him, reminding Alex that success was not just about money but about making a positive impact. They worked late nights, fine-tuning their products, planning new ideas, and dreaming bigger dreams. Alex was determined to prove that respect and kindness could be just as powerful as wealth and power. In the following months, the Ford company signed new contracts and grew fast. They hired talented people, created new technology, and gained attention from media and investors worldwide. Alex, once the boy mocked by the Carringtons, was now a respected young businessman with a bright future. Meanwhile, the Carrington family's empire continued to fall apart piece by piece. The rival company succeeded in buying several of their buildings, and key investors pulled out. Thomas Carrington, once a proud and strong man, found himself overwhelmed by the sudden changes. The family meetings turned into arguments filled with blame and fear. William refused to admit any weakness, blaming everyone except himself. Helen worried about the family's reputation and future. Grace tried to bring peace but felt powerless. The proud family name, once a symbol of strength, was now associated with failure. One day, Thomas called a meeting and said, "We must find a way to survive this. Our empire is at risk, but we are the Carringtons. We do not give up." The children nodded, but deep inside, each of them knew that the world was changing fast, and their old ways might not be enough anymore. Alex, however, kept working on new projects, always looking forward, not back. He wanted to build a company that would help people, not just make money. He believed that real success was about making a difference. The story of the Ford family was becoming one of hope, growth, and kindness, while the Carringtons were learning a hard lesson about pride and the changing times. Through it all, Alex never forgot the nights when he was mocked and ignored. Instead of anger, he felt sympathy for the Carrington children who had not yet learned that true strength comes from respect and heart, not just wealth. The city watched closely, waiting to see what would happen next, a great fall or a new beginning. And in the quiet moments, Alex made a promise to himself: no matter what, he would stay true to his values and never lose sight of who he was and where he came from. As the weeks passed, the city's attention slowly shifted from the glimmering towers of the Carrington Empire to the rising force of the Ford Company, which was quickly becoming a symbol of hope and innovation. Alex Ford worked tirelessly with his father, Mark, and their small but dedicated team, who believed in the vision of using technology to make life better for everyday people. While the Carrington family still lived in their grand penthouse and attended lavish events, the atmosphere inside their home was changing. Thomas Carrington felt the pressure from all sides. Competitors were closing in, and even some longtime business partners were beginning to question his leadership. William, once so confident and full of bravado, found himself growing restless and frustrated. He tried harder than ever to show strength, but deep down, he knew the foundation beneath their empire was crumbling. Helen's sharp mind, once full of schemes to expand the family's wealth, was clouded by worry. She saw the fear in her father's eyes and felt it too, though she refused to admit it openly. Grace, always the peacemaker, spent her days trying to hold the family together, arranging meetings and encouraging her siblings to focus on solutions rather than blame. Despite their efforts, the cracks in the Carrington empire became impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, Alex and Mark Ford's company grew faster than anyone expected. They signed a deal with a major energy provider to install their smart home systems across thousands of households. The news made headlines and brought new investors who believed in their mission. Alex was often invited to speak at conferences, where he talked about the importance of technology being simple, helpful, and kind to users. Unlike the Carrington children's sharp words and cold smiles, Alex's message was warm and hopeful. His genuine nature attracted support and admiration. Yet, Alex remained humble, remembering the nights he spent being mocked and overlooked. He often thought about the Carrington children, wondering if they would ever understand that power was not just about money or titles. One day, during a charity event organized by local businesses, Alex saw William Carrington again. William looked tired and different, less arrogant, more serious. Alex approached him with a calm smile and said, "William, it's good to see you. I believe we both want the best for the city. Maybe we can find a way to work together." William hesitated but nodded slowly. It was the first time they spoke without insults or mockery. The event was a small step towards something new. Back in the Carrington Tower, Thomas held a difficult meeting with his advisors. They had lost another property to a competitor, and the financial reports showed alarming declines. Thomas's voice was firm but tired as he said, "We must change our approach. The world is moving faster than we expected. We need new ideas, new energy." Helen suggested cutting costs and selling some assets to stay afloat, but William disagreed, wanting to fight back aggressively. The argument revealed how divided the family had become. Grace stepped in, reminding them, "We are strongest when we work together. We cannot win if we tear each other apart." But despite her words, the tension in the room was clear. Elsewhere, Alex was preparing for the biggest presentation of his life. His company was about to pitch a partnership with a global corporation interested in using their smart home software on a massive scale. Success in this deal could secure the Ford family's place among the world's most respected businesses. The night before the presentation, Alex sat with his father in their modest office. Mark smiled and said, "No matter what happens tomorrow, remember why you started. To help people, not just to win." Alex nodded, feeling the weight of those words. The next day, the presentation went better than anyone expected. The global corporation's leaders were impressed not only by the technology but by Alex's passion and honesty. They agreed to the partnership, marking a turning point for the Ford company. News spread quickly, and many began to see Alex not just as a businessman but as a leader with heart. Meanwhile, the Carrington family watched the headlines in disbelief. Their once unshakable empire was shrinking as the Ford company soared. The rivalry that had been filled with mockery and pride was now overshadowed by a new reality. Thomas realized that to survive, he and his children needed to rethink everything, not just their business strategies but their values and how they treated others. Slowly, the Carrington children began to question their past actions. William, who once laughed at Alex, started to feel regret for the way he had treated him. Helen thought about the meaning of true success and whether wealth alone was enough. Grace hoped for a chance to make things right. One quiet evening, after a long day of meetings and decisions, William found himself standing outside the Ford Company's office. He wanted to speak with Alex, not to mock or compete, but to understand. When Alex opened the door and saw William standing there, he welcomed him with a genuine smile. Their conversation was honest and open. William apologized for the past, and Alex listened without anger. They spoke about dreams, mistakes, and hopes for the future. It was a moment neither of them expected but both needed. The city watched as these two young men, once on opposite sides, started to build a bridge between their worlds. The story of the proud Carrington family and the humble Ford family was no longer just about money or mockery. It was about change, growth, and the power of kindness. Alex's journey showed that success was not measured by wealth alone but by the courage to stay true to oneself and to lift others up. The Carringtons, facing the fall of their empire, learned that sometimes losing everything could be the beginning of something better. And the Ford family, rising from humble beginnings, reminded the world that dreams fueled by kindness and hard work could shine brighter than any fortune. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, hope was real. The Carrington family's empire, once a symbol of power and success, was now facing its greatest challenge, and the weight of the fall was heavy on every member of the family. Thomas Carrington, the proud patriarch, found himself sitting alone in his grand office, staring at the city lights that no longer seemed as bright as they once were. His mind was full of worries and questions. How had everything changed so quickly? The properties they had fought for so long to own were slipping away, and their reputation, built over decades, was now at risk. His children, William, Helen, and Grace, each carried their own burdens. William, who had always been the loudest and most confident, now felt uncertain and angry. He struggled with accepting the new reality and blamed many people but refused to look at his own mistakes. Helen, always sharp and calculating, tried to think of ways to save the family business. She spent hours meeting with advisors, trying to create plans to protect what was left of their empire, but she could sense that time was running out. Grace, the youngest, watched her family slowly fall apart and wished she could find a way to heal the wounds between them. She wanted to remind them that they were a family first and a business second. The tension in the Carrington home was almost unbearable, and the once warm and lively house now felt cold and quiet. Outside their world, Alex Ford and his father continued to grow their company with steady, thoughtful progress. The partnership with the global corporation had opened many new doors, and their smart home technology was becoming popular in cities across the country. Alex traveled often, speaking at conferences and inspiring young people with his story of kindness and hard work. But despite his busy schedule, he always remembered where he came from. He made time to check in on his father and spent evenings in the small office where his journey began. One day, Alex received an unexpected invitation, a meeting request from Thomas Carrington himself. The letter was formal but carried a hint of urgency. Alex was surprised but agreed to meet. The meeting took place in a quiet conference room in the Carrington Tower. Thomas arrived looking tired but determined. Alex felt a mix of emotions: curiosity, caution, and hope. Thomas began by admitting the truth they had all been avoiding. "Alex, I won't lie. Our empire is falling. We made mistakes, and we were too proud to listen or change when we should have. I mocked you and your family, and for that, I am sorry. Alex listened carefully as Thomas continued, "I realize now that true strength comes from respect, humility, and working together. I want to learn from you, and I want us to find a way to help each other." The honesty in Thomas's voice surprised Alex. He saw a man who had lost much but still wanted to do what was right. Alex replied with kindness, "Mr. Carrington, we all make mistakes. What matters is what we do next. I believe we can build something better together." Over the next few weeks, the Ford and Carrington families began to meet more often. At first, there was awkwardness and old wounds that made conversation difficult. But slowly, through shared stories and honest talks, they started to understand each other better. William, Helen, and Grace joined some of the meetings, and though they were hesitant, they also saw the value in cooperation. The Ford Company offered support and ideas to help save parts of the Carrington empire, while the Carringtons brought their experience and connections. It was not an easy process. Trust had to be earned, and past pride had to be put aside. But both families found that when they worked together with respect and kindness, challenges became opportunities. The city watched this unexpected alliance with interest and hope. The story of two families, once divided by mockery and pride, was becoming a story of unity and growth. The Carrington children learned important lessons about humility and the power of kindness, while Alex and his family showed that success is about lifting others up, not pushing them down. One evening, at a public event celebrating the new partnership between the Ford and Carrington companies, Thomas Carrington spoke openly about the journey his family had taken. He said, "We have learned that no empire lasts forever if it is built only on pride. True success comes from respect, kindness, and the courage to change." Alex stood beside him, proud but humble, knowing that the future held many challenges but also great promise. The story of the billionaire family that once mocked the CEO's son was no longer about downfall but about redemption and new beginnings. And in that moment, the city understood that true wealth is not measured by money alone but by the strength of character and the ability to rise together. The fall of the Carrington Empire had taught them all a lesson they would never forget, that sometimes, losing everything is the first step toward finding what really matters. The final chapter of this incredible journey began quietly but with a powerful message that echoed far beyond the walls of the boardrooms and penthouses of New York City. After months of working together, the Ford and Carrington families had built not only a new business partnership but a bridge between two very different worlds, proving that even the deepest divisions could be healed through respect, understanding, and shared goals. Alex Ford, once the boy mocked and ignored by the Carrington children, had become a symbol of hope and change, a reminder that kindness and hard work were forces stronger than wealth or pride. The Ford Company's smart home technology continued to spread, helping thousands of families reduce their energy use and live more comfortably, while the Carrington empire found new life through innovation and collaboration. Thomas Carrington, now older and wiser, had become an advocate for humility and the importance of listening to new ideas, inspiring his children to look beyond their past mistakes and embrace a future filled with promise. William, who had once mocked Alex with sharp words and harsh laughter, stood on stage with him at a major business conference, speaking openly about the lessons he had learned about pride, respect, and the true meaning of success. Helen, too, changed from being a fierce competitor to a thoughtful leader who valued partnership over power. Grace, whose gentle spirit had always been the quiet strength of her family, helped create community programs that supported young entrepreneurs and encouraged kindness in business. Together, the families used their combined influence and resources to launch new projects aimed at improving the lives of people across the city and beyond. The media covered their story widely, not just because of the financial comeback but because it was a story about humanity, about forgiveness, growth, and the power of second chances. The city's residents, who once saw the Carringtons as untouchable and the Fords as small and unknown, now cheered for both families, inspired by their courage to change and work together. Alex often remembered the nights when he stood quietly at the Carrington parties, feeling small but dreaming big. Now, he traveled the world speaking to young people about the importance of kindness, patience, and believing in yourself, sharing his journey from being mocked to becoming a respected leader. He spoke not just of business but of values, honesty, respect, and the strength found in lifting others rather than tearing them down. The Carrington family, humbled by their fall and rebuilt through collaboration, embraced a new legacy, one not based on money alone but on the impact they made in the lives of others. Thomas, sitting quietly in his favorite chair one evening, looked at a photo of his family and said softly, "We lost much, but we gained what truly matters." William smiled beside him and added, "We learned that the richest life is the one lived with kindness and courage." Helen nodded, and Grace held their hands. The billionaire empire that once mocked a CEO's son had fallen, but out of its ashes rose something far greater, a story of hope, unity, and the incredible power of change. And so, as the sun set over the city skyline, the Ford and Carrington families faced the future not as rivals but as partners, ready to build a world where success was shared, dreams were nurtured, and every person's worth was measured not by wealth but by their heart. The city, forever changed by their journey, carried this lesson forward, a reminder that even in the face of loss and hardship, kindness and perseverance could transform lives and create a better tomorrow for all.